Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Welcome everybody's coming in to the introduction to local election campaigning Green Party training session. Thank you so much for giving up some of your Tuesday evening to come along to this. We're going to give it a few minutes before we start, just for any people who are coming a little bit late, perhaps. While we're waiting, if you're happy to, if you're comfortable doing it, you'll see we have a chat box. So if you'd like to, just put in your name, whereabouts you're from, or whereabouts you're based, I should say, and perhaps how much experience you have with election campaigning. This session is for everybody. So if the answer is you have no election campaigning experience, that's absolutely fine. But yeah, go for it.
It's great to see so many people from so many different parts of the country as well. It's great.
Oh, and I should say very quickly, this session is being recorded. Yeah, it's being recorded. And yeah, the other thing is you'll see there's also a Q&A box. We have a chat box and we have a Q&A box. So the chat box is for what we're doing now, introducing yourselves, any discussions you want to have, amongst everybody watching while we're speaking, that's great. The Q&A box is specifically for questions that we'll answer at the end. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, at any point, you can just put it into the Q&A box, and people can upvote the questions that they like, and we'll answer them at the end. Just to be really clear, if you put questions in the chat box, we won't see them and we won't answer them. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, and the buttons for the chat box and the Q&A box should be just right next to each other along the top. So hopefully easy enough to find. It's 5 past now. I think we should get going, Jamie. Just get started.
Yeah, we're on 97 people. I want to reach 100, but maybe maybe that's not going to happen. Let's give it till 6 past. I want to see if we can creep over 100. That'd be really exciting.
Okay, let's see if we can get those final 3 people, imaginary people who are going to turn up.
Yeah.
And then we'll get cracking in a minute anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, to confirm, the plan is the training, the presentation should go on till about 8, and then we'll have about half an hour at the end for questions. So yeah. The Q&A box should be along the top bar of your of the Teams chat.
I think it might be, if you're joining on your phone, it might be somewhere slightly different.
Oh, we reached 100. There we go. We're on 100 and at 6 past. So I reckon
Okay,
we can crack on.
Get cracking. Can I just check? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Brilliant. Thank you. So welcome everyone. Welcome to this national training session, which is going to be an introduction to local election campaigning. And just a quick note that this is a repetition of the November session. So it's exactly the same if you were at the session in November, because we're trying to make sure that everyone has access to this session, and we're going to run it again in January as well. But yeah, as we all know, it's a really exciting time to be a Green at the moment. Membership is surging. We've just hit 180,000 members this morning, which is really great. But of course, now it's time that we turn that momentum into winning election results. But the good news is we already know how to do it. We have a tried and tested strategy, which has taken us to having over 850 councillors. And I'm sure we're going to get much, much more councillors elected all across the country this year as well. So I'm Izzy. I'm a campaign organiser in Lancaster, where we've had big growth in councillors' numbers, both on the City Council and the County Council.
and my name is Jamie. I am the Cardiff campaign organizer, so I am working on the very, very exciting Senedd election campaign where we're trying to make history by getting the first ever Greens elected to the Senedd. Separately, I actually used to work in Lancaster myself, so me and Izzy both have experience in Lancaster, but now I'm in Cardiff.
Yeah, and obviously Cardiff's a very exciting national election, but today we're going to be talking about local elections, and we're going to be talking about the strategy that's seen this massive growth in council numbers in this graph in recent years. Because obviously, yeah, we've seen many, many more councillors being elected for the Greens, which is amazing.
And yeah, so yeah, like we said, today is about local elections, so that's what our focus is on. But it is worth saying that the electoral strategy we're talking about today also underpins our success in getting 4 Green MPs elected last year. Obviously, now we've got Sian Berry, Ellie Chowns, Carla Denyer, Adrian Ramsey. 4 MPs is really exciting. And yeah, the way we get MPs elected is a little bit different, and there is going to be separate training for that. But it is just worth saying that without the hard work in local elections in all of the areas that our 4 MPs got elected, we wouldn't have MPs. So hard work in local elections leads to success in national elections.
Yeah, for sure. And at the local level, this strategy has not only helped us win councillors, but it's helped us win really big. We're now in power on 41 councils across the country, which you can see on the map. So that's us being in cabinet, being in coalition, or even, in some cases, leading the council. Just us as Greens, which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, so Izzy, the gift's not there.
Oh, you can't see it?
I can't see it. Ah, there we go. Nice. Oh, it coming and going. Don't worry, I'll crack on. I don't know if anybody else likes Kung Fu Panda, but I did have a gift that said the secret ingredient is. Because yeah, today we're gonna learn, in the next hour, the next 50 minutes actually, we're gonna learn the secret formula that the Green Party use to make sure we win in these local elections. So how have we achieved all of these successes? Hopefully by the end of this session, you'll feel like you know the answers, and then can bring them to wherever you are, wherever you're calling in from, bring this knowledge back to your party, your local party, and get it implemented.
Yeah, so in this evening session, we're going to explain the what, the why, and the how of the Green Party's election winning strategy. We'll use a case study example, sort of highlight how the strategy works in action. And then, like we said, we'll end with a Q&A. So if you have any questions about anything that we're talking about as we're going along, just pop them in the Q&A box.
I was on mute there. So how do we win? How do we win elections? How do we go about it? That's what we're answering today. So here we go. So how to win local elections? So what we're talking about today is a framework for election success. It's not like an absolute, copy and paste recipe that you can do that we'll just use everywhere. We're not going to give you like some really restrictive thing you have to do. It's a set of guiding principles, a set of tactics which you will adapt to your own area, and will keep growing and will keep developing. And on a literal level, this is an election strategy and it is a book. How to Win Local Election is a Green Party book that all members can buy. And your local party will probably have one of these copies already, or your local party should have at least one copy of this book already. So today we're doing it in an hour. You want to get into the really, really like nitty gritty of all of this stuff. Either buy the book or contact your local party, and they'll get into like even more details about everything we're talking about today. So really quickly before we start, you may have heard the term Target to win is a term the Green Party used to use a lot and is often used as a catch-all phrase for how we win local elections. But it's worth saying that targeting is only one part of our local election strategy. So some of the stuff we're talking about today is to do with target to win, but it isn't all that. And I think sometimes that phrase in the Green Party has been used too much. And it's just worth saying this because you might hear in your local parties people talking about target to win, target to win, target to win all the time. So if you hear that, it's kind of a little bit of what we're talking about today, but actually it's a much broader thing because the key concepts, like I said, is one is targeting, right? Targeting is one part of it, but it's also about effective frequency. We're going to get onto that. If you're not sure what that means, we're gonna learn all about that today. It's about having 3 key messages, and it's about running hyper local campaigns. Like we said, this is training for local elections. This isn't about national elections. So running these hyper local campaigns are really important. And yeah, just to reiterate this point again, absolutely love this graph, right? The things that we're talking about today has been a huge factor in why there's this really crazy steep increase in councillors since 2018. So this is a massive part of what's led to this growth. So yeah.
Okay, so we're just going to delve a little bit now into some psychology, so we can try and understand why we use these strategies, because hopefully if you understand the logic behind them, that's going to give you more confidence when applying them in your election campaigning. But yeah, so if you could just take a second and have a think of the answer to this question, why do people vote the way they do? And just pop your answer into the chat. It can be the first thing you think of, just whatever you think. There's no right or wrong answers. Why do people vote the way they do?
Yeah, I'm seeing people talk about emotions. A few people have said like parental influence. I think that's a really good point. Loyalty, habit, storytelling. I like that one a lot. Tribe mentality. All of these answers are good, by the way. All these answers are good. I'm just they're going through really quickly. I'm just reading some of the ones that I can see. Eliminate the party they dislike, media influence. National politics and media, vote tactically. Yeah. Lots of nice ideas there.
Okay, let's take a look at what psychology says in terms of why people vote the way they do. So, why do people vote the way they do? I liked all those ideas that are coming through. I think there's lots of good ideas. These are just some of our points here. So some people had said about tactical voting, right? So under first past the post, which we know isn't a democratic way of voting, but it's the system that we've got, and there's nothing that we can do in the short term to change it. Long term, of course, we need to change to proportional system, but right now, in local elections, you're all going to be working under first past the post, and we have to accept that. And under first past the post, most voters choose between the 2 parties that they think can win. If you want to look into a bit more of the psychology of this, you can just Google Duverger's law, and you can find out more. But I think we've all heard people say, "Oh, the Green Party are lovely, but they're never going to win, so I won't vote for them." And this is what we're talking about. Most people choose between 2 parties who they think can win, even if it's not their favorite 2 parties. Most people do not vote on policy, which might not be nice for us to hear, but it's true. In fact, a lot of people have an active aversion to policy. We are going to go into this in a bit more detail as we go on. But like, for example, what do I mean when I say we don't vote on policy? So as Greens, we could say we'll implement 15-minute cities to reduce air pollution and a car-dependent urban planning model. Or we could say we'll make your child walk to school safer by slowing traffic and adding a new zebra crossing. That is the exact same thing, but one of them has had a focus on policy, and one of them is telling a story. People don't vote on policy.
they do vote for people who work hard, care about the area with strong convictions, and will make their lives better. Somebody who will advocate for them, influence for them, and hold others to account. People vote for people, not parties. They just want somebody who's going to work hard, and yeah, make their lives better. But like I said, again, we'll come back to that again later. But let's keep it in our mind now. Most people are voting for people, not parties. And finally, most people do not vote left and right, which again might seem really strange for us to think about as Greens, but it's true. I'm sure some people on this call are out door knocking right now. Some of you won't be. But it's extremely common to meet people who are choosing between Greens and Reform. And again, that might be so strange for us to think about, but most people are not thinking left and right. They want somebody who's working hard for them and is gonna like make a change. So yes, again, we'll get into that in a bit more detail, but that's that for now.
Yeah, and something really important to remember is that as human beings, we're actually really terrible decision makers. And this is all based on like psychological research of the fact that actually we're very, very irrational. And because we've got very busy lives, most of our decisions are actually made through this sort of like subconscious system. So we're not actually sitting down and making conscious decisions all the time, because that would take obviously a lot of energy. So our brain sort of helps us out and takes some sort of subconscious mental shortcuts. And one of these is that anything that's unfamiliar to us, our brain automatically goes, oh, that's unfamiliar, that's scary, I don't like that, I'm not going to engage with that. Like it's always easier just to choose the exact same cereal every time in the supermarket, because it's like, I know what this is, I'm not going to, waste time to try and sit there and choose a new cereal every single time. And that's why effective frequency is so important, which is just a very fancy word, but essentially it just means repetition. It's just the process that we have to go through in order to take our messages from being really unfamiliar to people and making them familiar. So it's making how we reach voters multiple times so that they become familiar with us and with the Green Party, which Jamie's going to explain in a bit more detail.
Mute myself again. Just a really quick one. If you have questions, I hope the Q&A box is working. I saw some questions and I copied and pasted one in. Just if you have a question, make sure you're using the Q&A box. It should be on the top of your screen. And yeah, sorry, that was a really quick thing. There's a really good question and I popped it in there, but in future I might not see them. So yeah. Okay. So effective frequency is about creating or changing a message from being unfamiliar and unknown to familiar and comfortable. Easy. While I'm saying this, could you just check about this Q&A box, because it seems to not be working? Thank you. So changing a message from unfamiliar and unknown to familiar and comfortable. So our assumption, right? Because we are Green Party activists, because we love the Green Party, we assume that we can deliver one leaflet. The people who receive that leaflet are going to read every word of it, and they're going to be like convinced by our arguments because our arguments are so strong, and then they're going to vote for us. In reality, that isn't the case. The first leaflet will go straight in the bin. People will have not received a message from the Green Party before. They're not political, they're not interested. They're not political people, they're not interested in politics. They'll pick up that leaflet and put it in the bin. It's unknown, it's unfamiliar information. So we need to keep repeating and repeating until this message becomes familiar and comfortable. So like I said, the first time you get this new information, it's scary. I don't know what this is. I don't like it. It's going in the bin. Second time, third time, probably the same. We don't like as humans, we don't like this challenge, this new information. So this keeps happening. As we get more, let's say fourth, fifth, sixth, okay, it's a bit less scary. I get quite a lot of leads from the Green Party, and I quite like them. Maybe I don't like them, but I'm not worried about them. Yeah, this is a regular thing that happens. Keep going. Actually, yeah, this is like I'm having a little read of this now. We had quite a few of these. I'm gonna have a read. Yeah, it seems all right. Bit more. Actually, yeah, pretty good. Buy your ninth, 10th leaflet. Love this. And I've always loved this. And it's your brain tricks yourself. Not only do you like it now, you believe that you've always liked this, and it's always been something that you've liked. So that's why it's so important to um, to keep this message going. And a practical example of that, um, unrelated to politics, is pizza flyers. Okay, so takeaway companies. And I know you might not like getting takeaway menus through your door, but it is a matter of fact, okay, that takeaway companies, if they have a budget for 3,000 leaflets, they will deliver the same leaflet 3 times to 1,000 houses. They will not deliver 3,000 leaflets once. They'll make sure they go back to the same house 3 times, um, because the first one is binned, but as the people get more, like we said, it's their subconscious starts thinking about this, and then it's more cost effective for this takeaway company to have delivered to 1,000 houses 3 times than 3,000 houses just once. And in terms of our research, um, we believe that effective frequency requires about 7 to 9 repetitions for people to become familiar and like our message. So when we're talking about winning local elections, that means people need to receive about 8 to 9 exposures to our message before we have a chance of winning. And that could be leafleting. It should be mainly leafleting. It could also be door knocking. Like a knock on a door will also count as an exposure to our message. But think about that means in local elections, you win um, to win a ward, like an electoral award, you need to make sure that you're reaching people 8 to 9 times. And I have a couple of graphs to show you to kind of like visualize it if that helps. So this is how we tend to think of our impact with a leaflet, right? Again, as Greens, we like to think that everybody cares as much as we do, right? So we like to think, okay, so we deliver one leaflet and we have a massive upvote in voters. So I should say, so on these graphs, the y-axis is like number of voters, and the x-axis is like number of leaflets delivered. So we like to imagine this: you deliver 1 or 2, and we really whoosh up in voters because people like our messages, and we like to think our first message has some like serious influence on people. But in reality, it looks more like this. Like we said, we think it's about 7 to 9, 8, 9, 10, that kind of area that you need before you start making a real influence. So as you can see from this graph, the first 5 leaflets are basically making no difference at all. And then once we hit 10, it starts going up. And then, 15 and 20, that's when that like whoosh happens to make a big difference. And again, I appreciate this message as Greens. We might think this seems like bizarre, but most people are not political in the way that everybody on this call is going to be. And just one more to kind of prove this logic. If it only took 1 or 2 hits for people to register a message, advertising wouldn't exist. TV, TV adverts, you see the same advert over and over and over and over again. And that's because the psychology tells us that people need to receive the same message many times to actually, like, in that case, buy a product. In our case, they need to receive the green message many, many times before they vote green.
Okay, so we had this slide about how terrible we are as decision makers at the start of the section. But we're going to add in a couple of 2 just important things, which is what we can learn from all this in terms of our campaigning. So we now know that in order to make campaign messages acceptable, we'd need an effective frequency of delivery of them, essentially repetition. And also our knowledge of human behaviors and these cognitive biases drives how we design and write our literature itself, and then what messages we use in our campaign and in our leaflets. So how do we apply this knowledge of psychology? How do we sort of implement it in practice in terms of winning elections? That's what we're going to cover in this section. And some of these things might go against sort of our instincts as Greens, as what we think we should put in leaflets or what we think matters. But it's really important to remember that the results don't lie, that this strategy is tried and tested, and it definitely leads to election winning results. So yeah, in this section, we're going to cover making sure that we deliver enough literature to make Greens familiar, getting that effective frequency, making sure that the literature itself, all our leaflets are really easy to read, and that they're addressing the day-to-day concerns of voters in the local area. So, you know, what actually matters to people. And then, of course, making sure that we're going out and knocking on doors as well, not just delivering leaflets.
Okay, so we've already thought about this a little bit, but kind of going back to it. So having like thought about this human psychology stuff, in the chat again, if you're happy to, just write in there, what do people care about most? What issues do you think people care about most? Oh yeah, I'm not sure if you can see. So we've got cost of living, potholes, money, health, traffic, cost of living. Lots of people saying cost of living. For sure. Yeah, money, potholes, littering and road safety, immigration, family, money, GP appointments, public services. Yeah, I think I agree with almost all of that. Okay, cool. Lots of nice ideas there. So let's give what me and Izzy, I suppose, think the answer is. But I think all those suggestions there are like really solid. So thank you very much for sharing them. So what I want to start with here is, and I say this with so much love for everybody on this call. Thank you for coming. Is that we're all a bit odd. Most people don't spend an hour and a half on a Tuesday night learning about local elections. And that's great. I love that you're here. I absolutely love local elections. I think local elections are great. And I'm really glad you all want to learn about it. But it's just a matter of fact, right? You know, so people on this call probably care a lot about what we call distal issues. We're going to get onto what distal means in like in about 5 minutes time, right? So just hold that word for a second. But basically distal issues, in short, far away in the future. So people on this call probably care a lot about global issues. We're probably very policy focused, probably have feelings about what policies matter to us. Probably quite ideological. That makes sense, right? We'll almost be somewhat ideological because we're members of the Green Party and we're interested in, you know, the issues that the Green Party cares about. And we probably have a very high attention span for politics and like identify politically some way, like probably say, you know, I would say I'm a Green, I'm a socialist, I'm a progressive. They're all great things. It's good to identify these things. But on this call, I would say that those 4 bullet points probably apply, I would say, to everybody on this call. So yeah, that kind of sums up who we are on this call.
Yeah, and just to follow on from that, this here is some more in common polling. So they've split the population into 7 voter groups. And probably all of us on this call belong to this group on the left here, the progressive activist group. And as you can see, sort of Green popularity within that group has been absolutely rocketing upwards recently. whereas it's been increasing much less so. I mean, still increasing, but in the other groups, you know, it hasn't been increasing by anywhere near the same amount. So this group is probably mostly responsible for our membership surge. Probably most of our new members would fit within this sort of demographic group of voters, of progressive activists. So we're sort of in a bubble, in a way, if we're all sort of progressive activists, or on social media, we're all sort of talking to each other. But when it comes to elections, of course, we need to reach beyond these people. And there are some wards, you know, local election wards in the country that are dominated by progressive activists, you know, particularly in the centre of cities and things like that. But the fact is they only represent 12% of the overall voter population. And for the most part, you can't win an election with just 12% of the vote. So we really need to be making sure that we are reaching out beyond this bubble as well. So yeah, we've spoken about sort of distal issues and probably the issues that maybe we care about as Green Party activists. But in the real world, most people don't care about politics at all. They're focused on sort of tangible things in the here and now. And this is maybe a less prevalent example now, but there are examples from the past where we've had people telling us that they voted for the BNP, not because they were a great fan of the BNP and they wanted to vote for the BNP, but simply because the candidate came round and mended their fence. So it's that kind of like really practical action that a lot of people are interested in seeing. So we've got to think about these sort of truths when we sort of approach our campaigning.
Yeah, so this is what we're talking about with distal versus proximal decision focus. So like I said, in this call, probably all care a lot about distal issues. So things that are going to happen in the future, things that are happening all over the world, elsewhere, not just in our local area. Things that are socially distanced, so like things that affect groups that we're not part of. Again, I think that really links to like the international focus. And also like hypothetical issues, you know, like, you know, if something, then something could happen. So we need to make sure that first part doesn't happen. But most people are not so politically minded. Like most people aren't thinking about politics all the time. And they're thinking about things that are happening here in the present, outside their front door, on the street they live in the town they live in, on the road they live in. Things that are socially close, things that are happening, you know, to them, to their family, and things that are actually happening right now, not things that are going to happen down the line. So what does that mean? People engage with us if we use everyday language about tangible, concrete things that affect them. People engage best with stories about real people here and now that are emotion laden. Okay, so as Greens, I think we have a tendency to speak in very rational terms. So, for example, I think I used the zebra crossing example earlier as well, actually. But like, you know, we might be tempted to say, you know, due to problems here, we've installed a zebra crossing as the statistics show that zebra crossings reduce something, like, you know, road traffic collisions by something percent, right? We could be very like rational, it's policy. We've got the stats to back it up. A much better way of selling that story would be to say, Mrs. Smith got in touch with us. She's 75 and struggles to get across the road to visit her daughter. So we installed a zebra crossing. Or we're pushing for zebra crossing. Like the practical outcome is exactly the same. And both times you have a zebra crossing. But the second way of selling that is going to like connect with people much better than if we just talk about like facts and statistics. And even like, you know, we're Greens, right? So the climate emergency, I mean, at least for me, the climate emergency is like the reason I got into politics and the reason I joined the Green Party and the reason I want to work for the Green Party. So even thinking about climate change, I think climate change is an issue, climate emergency is an issue that most people do really care about. But even that, there'd be different ways to like to focus on it, right? So rather than saying, you know, the temperature in whatever place in the world has reached the highest level it ever has, and sea levels are rising, and da 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 da, saying in the local area, flooding is happening that's never happened before, and here's a picture of that flood. That again, we're talking about the climate emergency, but we're talking about it in a way that people can actually see with their own eyes in front of them, rather than just talking in statistics and things that are happening very far away. If you can bring it to a much closer level, people are going to actually like have more time for it and connect with it. And then again, we have the green policies to combat these things, but the way we communicate it with people is through like a proximal focus.
Yeah, because sort of a hard truth is that policy is boring, or at least policy is boring to most people. Obviously, it's it's great. We've got loads of amazing Green Party policy, and it's so great that we've developed such policy and that members can be involved in creating policy, and that's amazing. But when it comes to communicating with the electorate, with voters, we've got to remember that most people probably don't care about the ins and outs of the entirety of Green Party policy, because what they really care about is real things that are happening in front of them right now. So if we focus on these big policy ideas, we're not going to be winning elections with that. No matter like however great our policy is, policy doesn't win elections. That's sort of the main point.
Yeah, and just to really quickly, I'll go on to this in a second, Izzy. Just really quickly build on what Izzy said there. Like nothing of what we're saying is saying that we change our policy at all. The policy is great. I love Green Party policy, and we want to implement this policy. We can only implement Green Party policy if we win elections. So yeah, like this session, right, is about winning an election. And then once you have Greens in power, we can implement our amazing policies, which, like Izzy said, is like decided by the membership. We're a completely democratic party. But unless we win the elections, we can never actually implement these policies, which is why we're talking about, connecting people on an emotional level, so then we can, enact these actual policies. There's quite a few hands up. We're not doing hands up questions. There's the Q&A box. And if the Q&A box isn't working for you, I suggest putting it in the chat and somebody can copy and paste it in, because lots of people have got questions now. And the Q&A box is working. So if you got your hand up, I'm going to be ignoring hands. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay.
At least until the Q&A. Yeah.
Yeah. So people vote for parties. So people don't vote for parties. They vote for people. So let's compare these two images and see which one you feel more of an emotional connection with. So here we have the logo of the Wales Green Party. I love the Wales Green Party. I work for the Wales Green Party. They're my favorites. But compare that to this picture. What is the reason for a massive increase in membership over the last few months? Why have people started joining the party? Our membership has like doubled in a number of months. Is it because of, the Green Party? Well, I love the Green Party. The Green Party is a great brand and it's a great party, but nothing's really changed with our logo or what we're saying, or our policies. They've all stayed the same, but we've had a new leader. We've had Zach come in, and the way that the messaging has changed has led to this massive increase. So in terms of bringing this to a local level, what you need to do, or what your candidate needs to do, is become a Zach Polanski. And that doesn't mean that we are covering local election literature in Zach's face. In fact, I don't think that's particularly effective. You need to become the Zach of your local ward, or your candidate does, right? You might be running an award of 2,000 people. You need all of those 2,000 people to know your name, to know your face, and to think, yeah, they've got a clear message and they're working hard for me. So I think hopefully there's lots of things you can take away from this training session. But I think a big one is become the Zach of your local ward, and that's the clear way that Greens can win local elections.
Yeah, and if you're going to be the ZAC of your local ward, what does that look like? What do people vote for? And well, the number one thing that most people across the board, they want to vote for someone that's going to work hard for them. Obviously, no one wants to elect a councillor who's only going to turn up to like half of the meetings, who isn't going to take the job seriously, isn't going to get things done and improve the area. So they want someone who's hardworking. Ideally, you've already done something for them. So you've already been active in the local community, and you've been working hard, and you've got something tangible to go, look, here's evidence that I have worked hard and I'll work even harder as your councillor. And it's also showing that you care, showing that you care about the local community, and you understand the issues and you care about the local issues. And then this is coming back to the point about people choosing between two parties who they think can win. So you've got to show that you're offering them the best deal. So you've got a chance of winning, and you are going to be meeting their needs. So you've listened to what matters to people in the local area, and you're talking about that. So they can say, oh, look, well, the Green Party, the candidate can win, and they're going to take action on fly tipping in this area, and that really matters to me. So that's why I'm going to vote for them. So yeah, practically what it might look like is just turning up week after week to litter pick in the local park, you know, in the rain. That's showing you're working hard. That's showing you care, and it could be literally as simple as that. And so, as we know, we need to have repetition throughout our campaign. And the great thing is, not only do we need to just do, you know, several 8, 9, 10 leaflets. In those leaflets, we just need to be repeating the same 3 key messages again and again and again. So under first past the post, we know that people choose between 2 options. They are asking themselves, who can win? Is voting green a wasted vote? I know we've all heard that a lot of times. So making sure that we have that binary message of it is us or this other party. It's not like, oh, it's us or it's Labour or maybe the Lib Dems could win. No, it's us or Labour. It's us or the Conservatives. It's us or Lib Dems. It's us or Reform. It's us or Plaid Cymru. Like really simple. And you can do that, you know, through graphs, through charts. And there's lots of examples in the How to Win Local Elections manual. We've got to make sure that that's the number one message that's always repeated, because people aren't even going to take us seriously. They're not even going to start considering us unless they think we actually have a chance of winning. And then, of course, the second key message is showing that we can work hard, because that appeals to almost every voter. And then in terms of the third message, that's basically adapted for every local context. And there's lots of different examples in the local elections manual about what that third message could be. It's also advisable to speak to your field organiser in your region to talk it through about what messaging might work for the local area. But it could be about, you know, a local outrage issue, like a dangerous road with dangerous speeding, and you're going to take action on that because everyone cares a lot about that. Or it could be about the fact that Greens are going to be an independent voice for the area, standing up for local residents' concerns, because obviously we know that as a Green Party, we're not sort of whipped as a party. All our councillors don't have to vote the same, whereas you'll find with other parties that they get told, you know, how to vote. You know, like all the Labour councillors, for example, it'd be like, we're all going to vote against this proposal, even if actually they might be in favour of it, or their residents might be in favour. They can't, because they've got to sort of follow that party line. So that's going to be quite a good message for us to say that we're different in that way. Or we could say that, oh, we're the only opposition to this party on the council. This party is running the council with a massive majority, and look how terrible it is. We need to hold them to account and make sure that they, you know, sort of deliver for the people of this area. But the most important thing is that we repeat these messages again and again and again and again in every single leaflet.
Yeah, we keep saying effective frequency, but it just is really important. You don't win an election without effective frequency. You don't win an election without delivering loads and loads of leaflets. So I'll show you now what effective frequency looks like in practice. So this isn't even all the leaflets. This is a selection of leaflets that went out in one ward over 2 years. We're actually going to do a case study about this in about 5 minutes time, so we'll go into a bit more detail. But this is what it looks like. This is over a 2-year period, and there's actually a few more leaflets in this. This is effective frequency. Like, hope you can see from those pictures, it's Hamish. It's the same person on the front of all of them. It's going to be the same three key messages. So some of these are newsletters which go into a little bit more depth than like a election time piece of literature. But even so, showing all year round that we're working hard, we're there for residents, and the Greens are, we can win, we're working hard, and we're doing whatever the third message is. But yeah, it seems like a lot, and that's because it is a lot, but it's what's effective and what wins elections.
Yeah, we've spoken quite a lot about leaflets and literature. Obviously, like that's a big stack of leaflets there. But of course, we can't forget about door knocking, which is sort of the other twin pillar of our election winning strategy. So it sort of sits alongside all the leaflets. And I think I just want to address the sort of main misconception with door knocking is that we're sort of going and knocking the door and then we're getting into some sort of big debate with voters. Maybe we're discussing Green Party policy, or we're having a big argument with them and trying to really persuade them to vote Green just in that conversation. But that's not really the case. We're mainly there just to listen, not to persuade, and to sort of create an emotional connection with voters, because people remember a feeling, how you made them feel, much longer than they remember actually what you said in that conversation. So we want to just be there to listen and to show that we care, show that we're hardworking, we're listening to their views and their concerns, because then we can obviously feed those back into the campaign and into our campaign messaging, making sure that we're addressing the issues that matter to local people. But yeah, if you want to learn more about door knocking, we've got a door knocking training session happening next Tuesday. So yeah, do come along to that. I think I'll find a link and post it in the chat.
Cool. Okay. I realized we said we'd finish the presentation by 8. Maybe we still got about 15 more minutes. We'll be as quick as we can. So we've had like lots of talk now, right, about like human psychology and election campaigns, kind of in the abstract. Like, what should we be doing? I think it'd be really helpful now to actually like see everything we've been talking about, like actually in action. What does it actually mean? And like, what does it look like on the ground? So the case study we're going to focus on was from Lancaster. I said it. Izzy works in Lancaster now. I was working in Lancaster before. In Lancaster, been like massive Green Party successes in the last few years. Lancaster has been had Green councils actually for quite a long time, but we went from having 10 councillors in 2019 up to 23 councillors now. So we've more than doubled from like that election. And we lead the city council, and we've tripled our representation on the Lancashire County Council as well. So we're going to look at a campaign with just one candidate over a 4-year period. So this is going to be about 3 elections over a 4-year period. So meet Hamish. Hamish went from standing in his first election, aged 18, to being a city and county councillor by the age of 2022. By the age of 2020, sorry. I'm so tired. By the age of 22, he started as an 18-year-old. Now he's 22 and he's a city and county councillor. Sorry about that. My brain's not working. This involved running in 3 elections. The first one, Lancaster was not using all of the things we talked about today. And the second 2, we were actually implementing all the things that we've just been speaking about so far this evening. And a key thing I want to lay out is that, interestingly, for this case study, even though it was over 3 elections, Hamish was against the same Labour candidate every single time. Now, we've anonymized the Labour candidate because it doesn't matter their name, but this person was the leader of Lancaster City Council and a Labour county councillor and like the leader of the Labour group in Lancaster. So what I would say is it was like the number 1 person Labour wanted to get elected. Okay. And I think we need more young people in politics. This is not meant to be in a bad way at all, but just on paper, if you're an 18-year-old running against the most significant person in Lancaster Labour, on paper, that's looking like a really difficult, person to be up against. But Hamish managed, as we're about to find out.
Okay, so flashback to 2021 when Hamish first ran for election, aged 18. So this was the county council election. And this is a picture here of one leaflet. This is the only leaflet that was delivered at the time. And yeah, as we can see on the front, there's a little endorsement quote from the one county councillor we had in Lancaster. This is not a bad leaflet, but obviously there are ways it could be improved. Like the 3 key messages I'm not really sensing what those are. But yeah, so then this was the result, which is actually an amazing result, a great second place. And it's kind of quite an unusual situation, really, because normally one leaflet's not going to get you a second place finish, because as we know, one leaflet's not going to be able to cut through and get that effective frequency. But in Lancaster, we've had Greens elected on the city council since the 90s. And there were some Green city councillors in some of this area that made up the county council. So probably that's contributing to already people have seen some things from Greens in the past. But yeah, as we can see, this is sort of the result when we have one leaflet, very little door knocking, and some sort of year-round newsletters, which I think that the year-round newsletter has been what sort of supported what is quite a strong finish. But as we can see, it's not, full-blown election strategy being implemented. We didn't win.
Yeah, I know, as you said, I just want to hammer home that point. If you, in a normal situation, if you put out one leaflet, you'd come last, maybe second last. Lancaster's a bit unusual because we had a Green presence for longer. But cool. Okay, so fast forward to 2023. This is now Lancaster City Council election, and actually this is a two council award. So we had two candidates. Shout out Sarah Punchin, who was an amazing candidate as well. So in this election, it's Hamish and Sarah standing together. So this is one of the leaflets put out, right? This is the front of the leaflet. Immediately, you can see there's 3 clear messages. Whenever I write a leaflet, I always implement what I call the bin test, which is what can somebody see as they walk from picking up the leaflet on their from their door to the bin. You've got about 10 seconds, maybe 5 seconds. They'll glance as they're about to go and throw it in the bin. And when we look at the front of this leaflet, we've got a lovely photo of both of them looking very smiley, very happy, looking very smart. We've got 3 key messages: year-round hard work, independent voices, active in the community. And now if we open up this leaflet, so imagine we're lucky enough that as somebody is walking to the bin, they happen to open it up, and what do they see? A lovely map that shows all of the hard work that Hamish and Sarah have been doing year round. And I'd just like to highlight that bottom left is like a collage of all the different pieces of literature we've been putting out all year round, just to remind people that year round we've been working hard for them. And again, this isn't focused on policy. This is focused on proximal issues that people care about. So if you have a look, I can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 pictures about bins. 2 are about speeding. Another one's about road safety. And we've got one which is about a local green space as well. And we even include here, not the exact place that Sarah and Hamish live. We say Sarah lives here in the middle of Bowerham, which is the name of the ward. Hamish lives here on the edge of Bowerham, to show that they're local people who are working hard for their area, doing things like litter picks, reporting speeding, reporting potholes, that kind of thing. And again, I just want to make this point again, because I fear it can feel a little bit disheartening when we talk so much about litter picks, filling in potholes and stuff, that we didn't join the Green Party just to do those things. Those things are really important, and I hope lots of people do go out litter picking. But we joined for much bigger things. But the point is, I guess spoiler alert, Hamish has introduced loads of great progressive policies as a councillor. He's done great things, but his electoral focus is about the proximal issues, showing that he's working hard all year round. And one really quick thing I'm going to say from this election, sorry, a little anecdote which I find just really proves this point. We had on the doorstep when we were out door knocking for Hamish, somebody told him that the reason he would be voting for Hamish is because he had seen how much Hamish's hair had changed in the literature, and purely due to the fact that Hamish had gone from having like short hair, moustache, long hair, no moustache, long hair, moustache, like his hair had changed so much that the person said, "So I know that you've been doing stuff for a long time here. You haven't just turned up for an election." And isn't it funny to think that, you know, we think so much about policy and these big issues. Somebody voted for Hamish because of his hair and how his hair had changed. And I think that really shows like the kind of things that people are like looking out for. So in terms of the results for this election, this is in 2023, with the full strategy we've just been talking about being implemented. And there we go. Hamish has come top and Sarah's also got elected there. There's a picture of them on election day looking very happy. So that's all the stuff we've been talking about today. Tons of leaflets, so many leaflets, year-round newsletters and door knocking. And I would just like to really, really quickly say here, cast your mind back to 2023. This is not the Labour Party of today. Labour were barely popular at this point, right? In 2023, Labour had a net gain of 537 councillors. They took over the running of 22 councils in this election. So the news from this day is massive, massive Labour successes. But in this little corner of Lancaster, we defeated the leader of the council and got 21-year-old Hamish elected, as well as Sarah, who's also a really amazing councillor. So, yeah.
Okay, so now fast forward to 2025. Lots of year-round newsletters have been delivered since then, showing all the great work that Hamish has done as a city councillor. And now it's the county council election. So Hamish is running against the same Labour candidate, but this time for the county council, because Hamish defeated them at the city council, but they continue to be a county councillor, obviously, because it's a separate election. And this is, again, just one of our leaflets. It's the election news, which we delivered in sort of the final week before polling day. As you can see, great photo, big picture on the front, and also crucially that bar chart with that we can win message, showing that it's between Greens and Labour here based on the last local election results. And then on the inside, we've obviously got lots of photos of Hamish taking action on local issues that matter to people. So like a zebra crossing, litter, missing road signs. And then we've got the endorsements, which are great because it's sort of social proof that people are backing Hamish and backing the Greens. And then just a quick point, we do have this comparison along the top with Labour. And for this one, we did actually choose to reference some national issues. Obviously, we kept it very focused on local issues in terms of the things that Hamish had been doing. But when it came to Labour, we did choose to speak about the disability cuts, the winter fuel payment, their decision not to scrap the two-child benefit cap, because we found that that was effective. So it's, I think sometimes we say that you've got to stick to really hyper-local messaging, but sometimes national messaging can work in a local election, but it is obviously context dependent. So yeah, this is the result. Hamish wins. Hamish beat the Labour candidate. So this is just sort of a continuation of that winning strategy being implemented. And, you know, as we can see, Hamish has won massive. This is like not even close. We've completely replaced Labour in this area. And there's Hamish looking very happy on the count with his mum, who's also also a Green councillor, which is fun.
And yeah, so just final comparison. So this is the 2021 result versus the 2025 result. Look, it's Lancaster South East. It's the exact same ward, the exact same boundaries, and the Labour candidate is the same in both of these. And it's literally like a reverse, right? It's gone from Labour winning with just under 50% of the vote to us winning with just over 50% of the vote. It's literally been a replacement, like Izzy said. And that is because of 4 years worth of hard work that we've been talking about today. Can't even count how many pieces of literature would have been delivered in that time. It's like so many. Door knocking all year round, working hard all year round, showing people that we're there. And that's the result. We now have Hamish on the city council and the county council doing amazing things, speaking up for really important issues that no other party are going to speak up on. And we only have him there doing this amazing work because of the 4 years of hard work in elections that we've been talking about today.
Okay, so maybe you're thinking, what sort of resources are out there to help you run a winning campaign like this in your local area? Well, yeah, just to say that there's lots of resources on the members' website, and the members' website also is getting a refresh, so there should be even more resources and it should be easier to find things soon. And then, of course, you can get a copy of the How to Win Local Elections Manual if you go to the AGC website here. But I cannot stress this enough. Please get in touch with the field team. We're here as staff members to help you with elections and with strategy. And there's a field organizer, at least one field organizer in every single region and in Wales. So yeah, please reach out to whoever is in your area. You can also, I think you can find their contact details on the members website. But we've also got more training sessions coming up soon. On Thursday, we've got a session about how to find sort of organisers. And then, as I said, next week, we've got the door knocking session and then also more sessions in January. So I will just post a link where you can sign up to see all the sort of upcoming training sessions and sign up if you want. Just pop that in the chat now.
Also, before we start the Q&A, I realise, some people will probably be leaving at some point soonish. We'll go till 8:30. But also, Izzy, do you have the feedback form?
Yeah,
as well?
I'll grab that. Yeah.
We'll also send. So I should say, we will send out a video of this, so you can come back and watch this again. And we'll also send out a feedback form. If you're happy to take 2 minutes to fill out, Izzy, we can see your screen just so you know.
Yeah, all good. Just checking the link works.
Yeah, if you have to take 2 minutes to fill out the feedback form, whether positively or negative, it's going to help us. We're running this session again in January. We ran it before in November. We're going to be running it every month pretty much. And it's really helpful to know how we can improve it for next time and also what you found useful. So yeah, we really appreciate doing that. But yes, we can start going to Q&A. Also, I'm really sorry that the Q&A box wasn't working for some people. I'm really not sure what was happening there.
Yeah, because I checked the settings and it says that it's enabled for all attendees, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. Again, maybe this is part of the problem. You should be able to there's a little up arrow. You should, if you can access it, you should be able to click that up arrow, and it will show that you want us to answer that question. And then I'll go from the most requested questions down to the I guess least. But yeah, really sorry if the Q&A box isn't working. There's not much else I can say than sorry. We thought it'd work, but yeah. Okay, let's begin the Q&A. I don't know if you can see it. Would you want me to like read them out and then we can just kind of take it in turns answering? Does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I've also got it up now, so.
Oh, does it work now? Okay, sound.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, the first one is, how do you convince the people who have the notion it doesn't matter who you vote for, we're all screwed? Do you want to take that on first, Izzy?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question because there's so many people nowadays who just obviously completely fed up with politicians of all flavors because they're like, well, none of it works. So I think, yeah, I'm imagining this is like maybe on the doorstep, a conversation that you might be having with the voter. Yeah, I mean, I would just be really quite honest with them, I think, and start by saying, yeah, no, I feel you. I think this sucks too, I'm angry, I'm fed up too. And then just, I guess, try and open up that conversation, try and ask them, why they feel that, if there's any sort of specifics. But I think making sure that we're having space for them to express sort of their frustration rather than just jumping straight in there and going, oh, well, the Green Party is different. Because obviously that's just going to go in one ear, out the other, I think.
Yeah, I would say more broadly, it's the Greens work hard message, right? So when you say it doesn't matter who you vote for, we're all screwed, I take that as like most people, and this is literally what most politicians do, they're not visible. You know, that's most elections are like every 4 years, right? They're not visible for 3.5, 3 3/4 years. Then they rock up at election time and expect people to give them their vote. So the way that we can like combat it doesn't matter who you vote for. Like, I guess you're saying we're all screwed. I'm also thinking of like, it doesn't matter who you vote for, everything's the same. You're all the same and nothing's going to change. I think actually being the candidate that turns up and is working hard all year round does show that we're different. And you know, I think more broadly, there's like work to be done to try and like rebuild trust in politics. And you can do that on the local level by being that hardworking candidate, being visible, like, you know, reporting the potholes, organizing the litter picks and doing stuff, because most other parties aren't doing that. Some individual like candidates will be, but by and large, it's the Greens who work the hardest. And I think by doing that, we can at least give people some hope in their local area, even if more broadly they still think doesn't matter who you vote for. At a local level, I think we can convince a lot of people to vote for us by working hard and you know, turning up for them.
Yeah. Okay, so the second question that I can see being most upvoted is, do you think that social media is more effective in swaying people nowadays? If so, how can we increase the Green Party's presence online?
Do you want me to go first on that one, Izzy? So I would say, look, so social media, of course, it has an impact. Um, in terms of local elections, I don't think it does. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't at all, but you're going to have a lot more success by focusing on door knocking and delivering leaflets. You know, if you have however much money, you know, because to actually reach people, you're going to have to pay for like social media advertising. On a local level, you're much better spending that money on leaflets, to be honest. Because like what's going to more like to like cut through to people's social media like social media, it's going to be like Zach, and it's going to be like national Green Party accounts who have a much bigger reach and are going to be paying for this like advertising space. So I'm not like dismissing social media like as a whole, because I do think it's important. But in terms of like local elections specifically, um, you want to focus more on door knocking and leafleting. And I think we have to have some level of like, I certainly do, right? Like trust in the National Green Party social media strategy. Like there's people much cleverer than me with social media who know what they're doing. And I trust that like that work is going in on a much bigger level to try and like cut through to people. But on your local level, like I said, actually being there, being visible, like on a physical level with leaflets and door knocking is in my opinion, like a much more effective way of reaching people. Do you have anything, Izzy, or is that?
Yeah, I think you've covered the main points. Maybe we should, yeah, just try and answer as many questions as possible.
Okay, then the next one was difficult question. Why did the number of Green councillors climb so steeply starting in 2018? What happened then specifically? I don't think I know the answer to that. Do you, Izzy?
I don't think I know the specific answer, but I think it was around the time that we started implementing this strategy, but also investing quite heavily in our staff team and in sort of like the team that are working on the elections. So it was like having that support in place for local parties, and then also like kind of rolling out this sort of election strategy more widely across the country, I think. Maybe there's other factors as well that I don't know the ins and outs of, because it was slightly before my time. But yeah, like the fact that you can really like, it's called like a hockey stick graph because it's just so like dramatically increasing. But I think the majority of it does come down to really systematically implementing the strategy, I think, because before this, I think different people were doing different things in different parts of the country, and maybe doing campaigning that wasn't like gold standard really. So I think that's the main thing.
Do you want me to, okay, the next one is, do we have the funds to be delivering 7 to 9 leaflets? Yeah, you should do. I mean, if we're thinking about like this again, this is local elections. You're not delivering it to tens and tens of thousands of people. You know, some local election wards are as small as like 1,500 people, and then like that's not even 1,500 houses. That's 1,500 people. You know, the Green Party, we do not have the funding that Labour, the Conservatives, Reform, Lib Dems have, but we do have money, and your local party does have money. So yeah, it might not be the case that we have the funds to be delivering 7 to 9 leaflets everywhere in the whole country, but if your local party, you know, are trying to break through to get their first ever seat on a city council, you should have the money to be able to target one ward, and doing that. So speak to your local party. They should have the money, and if not, you know, the regional parties have money as well. So
And it's
I
also,
think,
yeah, why fundraising is so important, because elections cost money. Like all the leaflets, they do cost money. So it's really important that make sure that each local party has enough money to be able to run the kind of ambitious campaign that we know that we can. You know, however many wards, it's like, oh, we think we can win 3 wards. Well, let's make sure we've got enough money so that we can deliver the amount of leaflets that we know that we need in those wards in order to win.
thank you, Izzy. Yeah, fundraising. I can't believe I didn't say fundraising. That's yeah, of course, of course. Always gotta fundraise. And especially if you're clear with what you're trying to achieve, people are more likely to give money, right? If you can say, you know, we have the election strategy is ready. We know what area we're going to target, and we need to raise whatever, 5,000, 10,000 pounds, whatever it is, to be able to like reach everybody. You know, with a compelling story, people will donate. So yeah. Sorry. Can we keep going, Izzy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Next one is the strategy the same in the local elections nationwide? Looking back at the general election time in Leicester, only the Tories worked hard campaigning, went to communities, and had their MP speaking to people on the streets. I think social media is the strongest way of getting people to vote. Um, cool. Thank you for that question. I I don't think social media is the strongest way of getting people to vote. I think being a hardworking local candidate is the strongest way, of getting people to vote. Um, Yeah, like fair. So I'm presuming that this Conservative like didn't win in Leicester, even though they were campaigning hard. I think we can't like, you know, I have zero sympathy for the Conservatives, but imagine trying to run that election campaign after they've spent 14 years destroying our country. Like it's a hard starting point that we're not at. So, you know, we're not in that situation. And like I said, in terms of like again, specifically with this is about local elections, right? Um, oh, they did win. They took over long Labour stronghold. So that kind of shows if you work hard, if you work hard on the ground, you can win even in the most unlikely circumstances. So I guess that is what we're saying then, where we you know, if you're working hard, then you can win. And if you're showing you're working hard, you can win. Um, because yeah, and again, especially at the local level, I think social media matters even less because most people, I mean, like most, like I'm sure if you get out your Twitter or your Instagram or your TikTok, whatever you use, and scroll, it's gonna be like Zach Plansky, Green Party, Zach Plansky, stuff like that. Most people, their social media, Zach Plansky isn't even, you don't even know who he is. His face isn't even there, let alone an even more local level. Like it's just not going to cut through. Again, unless you're paying for advertising. But if you're paying for advertising, a better way to guarantee people see your leaf to see the person's face is to like have it through their door or knock on their door. That's a guaranteed. They're going to see it because it's physically in front of them, rather than like maybe they'll be targeted with this advertising video that they'll just scroll through. So, and again, actually, one more thing. Sorry, when I talk about the bin test, right? I always have to talk about the bin test, yeah. So the leaflet lands on your floor, you walk to the bin, you got about 5, 10 seconds where you're glancing at the leaflet. If it's like an advert on Facebook, it's not even 10 seconds, it's like half a second just to swipe up. I don't care about that, it's gone. Like there's a longer window of like potential for the person to see it if it's physical than if it's digital. So yeah. Anything else, Izzy?
Yeah, I think that's because with social media, again with like the targeting the ads, it is quite difficult to get it down to just the ward that you want to target, because these areas are really small. It's like a couple of neighborhoods in a city or a town. It's not even like the whole town. And we've got no interest if someone from like the neighboring town sees it, because that's not helpful for us. We want to literally just be targeting those people. And obviously, if we literally put the leaflet to their door, we know they're the right people, because they literally live in that area. And also because lots of people aren't actually on social media, or they're not on social media in the same way, or they're not on the same platforms. Like lots of people don't use Instagram, or they only use Facebook, but everyone has a front door. Everyone, we can access everyone and reach them in that way.
Cool. Next one is how do we increase voter turnout?
That's a tricky question. It's an age-old question, really, of like, how can we get more people interested in voting? But the reality is, when we're out campaigning in a local election, we haven't got like infinite resources and time. So we haven't actually got time to be getting out there and trying to like get like everyone registered to vote or all of that, because that's like a massive amount of work in itself. And when you get into like the final few weeks before the election, it's then too late anyway, because the deadline's closed and it's only whoever's registered to vote that can vote. So we do focus our resources on, speaking to people who have voted before, who we know are registered, because we know that they're more likely to go out and vote again. It's very difficult when you knock on someone's door and they say, oh, I don't vote, or I'm not interested in politics, and they're really not interested. It's really hard like to try and cut through and actually get them just in one conversation to suddenly go, oh, actually no, politics does matter, I'm going to go out and vote. Like, that's an uphill battle to climb. So like when we're campaigning, our aim isn't actually really increasing voter turnout. It's like obviously just like winning the election. And then sometimes turnout does increase, because obviously every single person is getting our leaflet through the door, and they might start realizing, oh, actually my vote does make a difference this time, and I could get out these incumbent councillors who have been in our area for years and doing nothing. So sometimes we do often see that when we do start doing green campaigning, turnout does increase, but I think that's probably not our main aim when we're campaigning, unfortunately, as much as we'd love to be able to do that.
Yeah, I would just like expanding on that. I think, yeah, if we had the simple answer, I'd be a millionaire, because I could sell that answer to everybody. But I think it's a much broader thing about what it would be. Zach's talking about like making hope normal again, and on like that big level, you won't be able to do anything on a massive national level, because you're going to be campaigning in one ward in one local area. But I'm just repeating the same thing again, but it is like, if you have a good candidate who's working hard, who isn't just like every other politician who rocks up at election time expecting people to vote for them, and is actually like there year round, has created this like personal connection with the voters, you will have people who will come out and vote that haven't voted before, because we're doing politics differently, and we're actually working hard for people. So I think that in terms of like the agency that we have on a local level, I really think that is the best way you can increase voter turnout. Because it's a much bigger problem in politics. But yeah, being hardworking locally will bring some hope back to your area, and encourage people to vote. Okay, next. Two questions. Does the strategy include encouraging young people to register to vote? Could you share your sources for the psychological and other research on which this strategy is based? Okay, I quickly go first on this one. Does the strategy include encouraging young people to register to vote? Not massively, no, not particularly. We've done it before, like elections, targeting like university campuses. We've done some of this where we've been like given out information on like registering to vote, and certainly like more broadly on our leaflets, especially like the year-round ones, we could include like a QR code saying like register to vote. I wouldn't say it's like specifically about young people. I think more people need to like register to vote in general. I know that like young people don't vote as much as older people. But again, that is like a massive national issue. And if you're focusing on like your specific election campaign, it's going to be like difficult to make this huge impact. But again, I do think you can include like information about registering to vote, and like actually, yeah, like I keep saying, doing politics differently, being a really good local candidate, people are going to be more inclined to come out and vote for you. And in terms of source of the psychological research and the strategy is based, I like this was all this research was done by people cleverer than me. So I'm repeating it. So I actually don't have the sources to hand. Feel bad just saying trust me. Like I know the people who have done the research, like my boss's boss and boss's boss's boss, like they're really good. Like they know what they're doing, and it is based on research. I don't actually have the specific like I can't say like it's sourced from this piece of research. I'm sorry, but as much as I don't like saying it, it's a bit of like a trust me situation, I guess. Izzy, do you know it? Have you got the information?
I mean, like in the How to Win Local Elections manual, it does go into a lot more detail of the psychology and of the research, because it's based on a lot of like marketing research, like obviously because we've talked about like the advertising industry, it's based on a lot of that kind of research, which is in turn based on psychological research. So I think, yeah, I think in the local elections manual there'll be more information in there, but it's like, yeah, it's not just based on like one study, you know, it's based on like a whole like body of work almost, if that makes sense.
That answer was so much better than mine. Yeah. Totally agree with Izzy. Okay, next one. I recently ran in my area, Nunthorpe. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that badly. And we came fourth. I was racking my head as to what more I could have done. And thinking about it after this, we only had 1 month to campaign and only sent 3 leaflets. Is this enough time to implement the strategy? I'll let you go first, Izzy.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, yeah, it's great that you ran, and sorry that you didn't do better. But yeah, it sounds like it was, you know, already a challenge if you only had 1 month to campaign. That's sort of what we'd call, so like the 6 months before an election, not 6 months, sorry, 6 weeks. So 6 weeks before an election, just like right in that run up to like March and April, and then like the election's probably in early May. That's sort of what we call like the short campaign. So you sort of basically only had you were only able to campaign in that short campaign, whereas what we've actually got is like the long campaign, which is all the months leading up to the election. Could be like 2 years, 18 months ahead of the election, where we want to be sending out these sort of regular newsletters, telling voters about all the great work we're doing, you know, as campaigners in the area for months and months and months, so that even, you know, before we get into those final 6 weeks, they're already starting to be familiar with our message. So yeah, I would say like to absolutely everyone, the most important thing for winning an election is like starting earlier. The earlier you start, the better your chances are of doing well. And also it does sort of, it makes it a little bit easier because the leaflets you're sending in those final weeks, they've already been supported by leaflets previously in months before. So yeah, I think, yeah, probably in your situation, it was that you didn't have enough time to campaign and to really, you weren't able to reach that sort of effective frequency and cut through with voters, which is to be expected because you need a little bit longer.
Yeah, I just want to echo what you said. Firstly, Sam, thank you for running as a candidate because it's really important. If you're on this call, you know, and are unsure about being a candidate, you know, not all of our candidates are going to win, and in fact, most of our candidates aren't going to win. But actually, Sam, even though you didn't win this time, just standing is really important. You know, you gave people a chance to vote Green who otherwise wouldn't, and I think that that's really important. So yeah, and I say to everybody, if you're thinking about running as a candidate, like do it, even if you're a non-target candidate, which means there's like not much campaigning going on or no campaigning happening. It's really important that we give everybody the chance to vote Green. So yeah, thank you for running, Sam. And yeah, the thing I would say, and I like careful saying this, because this absolutely isn't you, but when I was just talking about before about how like a lot of people perceive politicians just like rock up at election time and expect people to vote for them, like that might have been how some people perceived it, right? The Green Party had turned up a month before the election and given 3 leaflets, and it isn't like, as you said, it's not supported by like a year. I mean, even like 6 months is good, right? Like, not no campaign is going to be 100% perfect, right? So, if you're planning to like target a ward in May and you haven't started yet, in May 2026, and you haven't started yet, like, the best time to start would have been a year ago, but you haven't done that, so it's fine. So start now. Starting now is better than starting next month, which is better than starting the month after. So don't worry about it being perfect. But the earlier that we start and the more we do, the better chance we have of winning. Because yeah, it can be perceived as you just rocked up at election time. So I'm not going to vote for you if you don't care all year round. But yeah, like I said, thank you so much, Sam, for running, because it is really, really important. We got 2 minutes. Maybe we'll stay a little bit past 1:30, but we're just like working our way through this now.
Should we take B's question? They've got their hand up. Should we?
I think that's a legacy hand, potentially. Yeah, it's a legacy hand. Yeah, I thought so. Okay, I can see how easy it would be. Sorry, I can see how easy it would be to draw. I guess sorry. I'm going to read it how I think it's meant to be. I can see how easy it would be to be drawn into negative conversations, either from residents or from door knockers focusing on problems. Thoughts? I'd love to get a more collaborative message, one which shows I'll stand firm for residents. In terms of like speaking to residents and door knocking, like we said, there's training happening next Tuesday for door knocking in more depth. As Izzy said earlier, like it's about listening, it's not about debating. So when you're door knocking, a standard door knocking script would be something like, knock on the door. Hi, I'm Jamie. I'm a Green Party volunteer, just calling to see what issues matter to you. And that isn't inherently positive or negative. It's just about listening. So yeah, we're not door knocking with a message. Leaflets have a message, right? And sometimes close to the campaign, some door knocking does have a message, but more broadly, the year-round door knocking is just listening to what matters to people. And yeah, sometimes that might be like negative stuff, not always. So yeah, I hope that answered the question, but maybe Izzy's going to have some like better insight again.
Yeah, no, I guess it's just the point about like if you're asking for local issues, you're kind of the framing is you're asking for problems. And I guess people then could be like, it could be then you get quite a lot of negativity, like, oh, my bins haven't been collected. Oh my God, the street's a mess. Oh, my kids don't feel safe in this park, blah, blah, blah. There's all this speeding on our road. But like assuming that we're not the ones in charge, we're not actually the councillors in the area yet. It's like important for us to hear that, I think, to hear that people are not satisfied with things currently. Or they're saying, oh yeah, and I contacted my councillor and they didn't get back to me, and then we go, oh well, that's dreadful, and we're listening to you, and like if we got elected to the council, we would try and change these things, and we want to have a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit or whatever. So I think it's like just about making that bridge from sort of like negative to positive, of like people maybe bringing these negative issues, but we're like listening to them and then saying, well, we want to change these things too. And the way you can do that is by voting green, and then you've got green councillors, and then we'll sort of make the change. But yeah, but I mean, a lot of the time, actually, you knock on their door and they go, oh, actually, no, everything's fine. I haven't got any issues in the area. And you go, well, that's great. If anything comes up, here's the details and you can contact us. So it's not like a constant like downer of here's everything that's wrong most of the time.
Yeah. Okay, it is 1:30 now. Maybe we'll go until 22 and then we'll finish. But thank you everybody for coming. And yeah, we're now at the end of the allotted time. So yeah, fair enough. You can need to leave. We'll answer a few more. Lots of younger members and perhaps some older ones too seem convinced social media will help us get elected. Can we say confidently that this won't work? Do we even know whether this can or won't work for us? I wonder, does finance put us at an even bigger disadvantage in respect to use of social media? So to be clear, when I've been talking about social media, I'm not saying that the Green Party just stopped using social media. I'm saying for your local election ward, spending money on a social media campaign in your little, not like like physically little, it's small, like it's a few thousand people max, isn't a good use of money. Of course, social media is important, right? Like look at Zach's socials. They're blowing up. The Green Party social media is blowing up, and that is reaching lots of people. But that's at like a national level. And the Green Party are putting in plenty of money to make sure that we're cutting through on social media on a national level. This is about local elections where we're saying, do you know what? Let's have some trust that the national stuff is cutting through to people. And we, in our ward, trying to get the first ever green on whatever the council is, we're going to spend our money on leaflets and we're going to spend our time door knocking, not trying to create a social media campaign, because we've got really, really great people working for the party who are like, you know, designers, like videographers, like all these skills that like perhaps you have. I don't have them. So I'm going to focus on door knocking and writing leaflets. So yeah, I'm not saying like the Green Party should get rid of their social media. That's just not true. But on a local level for local elections, it's much more important to do stuff physically.
Yeah, I think with social media, we don't know yet. Like obviously social media is becoming more of a role and more of a thing in terms of elections, but like we don't actually know. Like, and I doubt right now that you can win like a local election entirely on social media. Whereas we know that we can win it entirely on like that sort of ground campaign, on the leaflets, on the door knocking. And I think, yeah, that's something that I think is changing now. Before we've always been really strong, you know, in the places where we're campaigning, having a really strong ground campaign, which is how we've got, you know, over 850 councillors. But the Green Party wasn't really like on the national stage, like on TV. We didn't really have that air campaign element to it. Whereas now we're starting to get that, which is great. And that's sort of like hopefully like lifting all boats and helping our local campaign. But we've still got to like do the ground campaign. I think that's what Zach's kind of said as well. He said before, like, he's going to go and do that stuff and, you know, make more of a name for the Green Party on the national stage. And he's going to hope and trust that everyone's going to keep on with all the important work that we're sort of doing on the ground. So it's sort of like a perfect sort of union of like both elements, hopefully, that we're just going to like be winning everywhere or winning more than before, because we're going to keep campaigning. And then also people are going to like see Zach on the telly.
For sure. Before we carry on, I said I wasn't going to like comment on stuff in the chat. We got some like things about vote splitting here. And I just want to kind of address it because I think it's actually really important. Based on what I'm going to say about splitting a vote to let Reform win, in all the elections that have happened since Reform have come up, when Greens stand, Reform do worse. We do not split the vote and help Reform. Empirical data shows, like from the election results, that when Greens stand, Reform do worse. I said before about people not thinking about left and right. So many people don't think left and right. They think establishment, anti-establishment. And there are so many people who are just anti-establishment. The Tories have spent 14 years destroying our country, and now Labour are taken over and they haven't made it better. So they're going, okay, who's actually saying that they don't like the status quo and want to change? The Greens are saying that, and Reform are saying that. Which one should I decide to vote for? And some people will vote Reform and some people will vote Greens. We need to try and make these people come to the Green Party. But the idea that we will split some vote and help Reform, it just doesn't happen, because a big chunk of our potential voter base is the same as Reform. Even though we might not like thinking about that, it's true. These anti-establishment voters may well be choosing between us and Reform. And I saw one of the comments was like splitting between Greens, like Green in your party. Well, what party? Have they stood in an election yet? Like, I don't think we can trust your party to be doing anything. Like, it's been an absolute shambles so far. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. Zach has talked about potentially, you know, he's happy to work with Zara Sultana and Jeremy Corbyn, but for now, like, I don't know how we would be stepping down for your party, because it's just a shambles. So I don't think we need to be thinking about that yet. We need to be standing everywhere, because where we stand, Reform do worse. And the last thing I would say, sorry, Izzy, I'm sure you've got stuff to say as well. The last thing I would say is the Green Party have like a much more, people have a more positive view of the Green Party, right? And I'm sure lots of people have their own opinions on this, and I have my own opinions about like vilification of like Jeremy Corbyn and stuff. But just as a matter of fact, Corbyn is like a very divisive politician. A lot of people don't like him and won't vote for him, but they will vote for the Greens. So to me, there's no reason why we should be standing down for them. Because again, there are people who would be choosing between Reform and Green, and never in a million years they're going to vote for any party that has Jeremy Corbyn in charge. So yeah, we need to be standing everywhere. And the last thing I would say, sorry, the absolute last thing is also it's just like on a moral level, we should be giving everybody the chance to vote Green. Like, who are we? I feel really passionate about this. Like, who are we to play God and be like, these people will be voting for your party, and we're not going to give them a chance to vote Green? Like how arrogant of us to think that we can just control that. You know, if we play this like 3D chess, we're going to be able to control an election. No, like we should be giving everybody the chance to vote Green. And if an individual decides, actually, I don't want to vote Green, that's absolutely fine. But we should be giving people that opportunity and not trying to play God with elections, because yeah, I don't like it when parties try and do that. Sorry, Izzy, go for it.
Yeah, just in terms of like when it's like, does Green split the Reform vote? The statistic was it was for all of the places this year that had elections. That was, you know, thousands of wards across the country. We found that in wards where we didn't have a Green candidate, so there was no Green on the ballot paper, Reform won 57% of those wards. Obviously, as we know, Reform did ridiculously well this year. But then any ward that had a Green on the ballot, even just a name, like some of them we didn't even do, most of them probably, we didn't do any campaigning. Reform's win rate then dropped down to 38%. They only won 38% of those wards compared to 57% where there wasn't a Green candidate. So just by having a Green candidate, not by doing campaigning, not even any of that, it just massively cut down their chances of winning. Because also like the sort of the levels and how close it was, now that there's like 4 or 5 parties competing in most wards, meant that Reform won on quite slim margins. So just by having a Green candidate that maybe took some votes away from them or whatever, we don't even need to necessarily think about the psychology of, oh, well, they took votes from here and we had this with that. The numbers don't lie. Just having a Green candidate on the ballot paper massively reduced Reform's win rate, essentially. So, yeah.
Yeah, nice. I'm just having a quick look through of any last ones. There's something about, oh, okay, this is a bit of a practical one about getting into blocks of flats. Yeah, like it's well difficult getting into flats in Cardiff. I'm always trying to get into flats. My best advice is just like try your best. When I'm door knocking, or sorry, when I'm leafleting in a flat, I always just ring the buzzers from the flats at the top, and just say I'm a volunteer for the Green Party delivering some leaflets. Most people will let you in, and if they don't, I ring the next buzzer, and if they don't let me know, I ring the next buzzer until I get in. It's annoying, but there's nothing we can do. We have to try and reach those people. Try your best. The other thing I would say is, it says here about like trying to get in once is really difficult, and trying to get in, so getting in 7 times is impossible. Well, actually, let's say whatever the block of flats has, I don't know, 10 flats in it, and you buzz number 10, they don't let you in. You buzz number 9, they don't let you in. You buzz number 8, they go, yeah, of course you can come in. Write down this block of flats, number 8 will let us in, and then you're in 7 times, because you know that flat number 8 will let you in every time you go there, because they like the Green Party. So it's a bit of trial and error, and it does take longer. Somebody said more like 100 flats. 100 flats is even easier. You've got 100 people that can possibly let you in. So if there's 100 flats, I would start at number 100, because most people at number 100 at the top don't want to walk down to let you in, and they click the buzzer, and if not, 99, 98, 97. So yeah, just try your best. Sorry, Izzy, I keep going first. I'll let you.
No, I haven't got anything to add.
Okay,
probably time to wrap up, I think.
Yeah, sorry, can I show you the absolute last? There's a second part to that question, which maybe we can just finish off with, because I feel bad reading half the question. It was, there are a lot of new members about Hamish's 4-year history. We have been told that we only have funding for 1 round of leaflets. What's your advice in this situation?
Gosh, yeah, we're looking at that as like a target ward, but there's only money for one leaflet. That is tricky. I would say, yeah, try and fundraise to get more leaflets. Obviously, I don't know the situation in this area, but if it's the case that there's multiple wards that you're trying to go for, and each of them you can only have one leaflet in, I would sort of consolidate that down and just do one place with multiple leaflets. Like with that pizza advert example, you know, pizza companies don't send the same leaflet to 3,000 houses. They'll do the leaflet to 1,000 houses 3 times. So if that's an option, but obviously I don't know the area. But I'd say, yeah, reach out to your field organizer to see if there's any ways that they can help with fundraising or help with different things that you can hopefully then get more leaflets out.
Yeah, just to like, I think if you have a really clear ask of like we have a plan, this is the area we're going to target, this is why we're going to target it, it's this ward, this is going to be our candidate, we're going to fundraise like this. Whoever your field organizer is, you'll be able to find their email through like your local party. What can we do? You're more likely to be able to like get some support, I would say, financial or otherwise, if you like have a really clear plan. If it's just like, oh, we've been told we have enough for one round, we haven't really thought about what we're doing yet. Yeah, a clear plan and a clear idea will like lead to like more support, especially with like fundraising stuff. So yeah. I'm just gonna put in the chat a final time the form, the feedback form. We're gonna wrap up now.
I'll put it in. I've got it.
Oh, I just did it. I think as long as it's the right one. Oh, there you go. You got both.
Oh, good.
Yeah, 2 minutes would be really helpful for us to have an idea of how we can, what was helpful and what we can do better next time. So
and tomorrow I'll send out the slides and the recording as well if anyone needs to watch it back, or pass it on to any other members in your local area as well.
Yeah, cool. Thanks so much, everybody. Yeah. Get out campaigning if you're not already. Hopefully this has like made you want to like go and do some local election stuff. So yeah. Cool. Should I click end, is it?
Yeah. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thanks everyone. See you later.